Codename S.T.E.A.M is a game developed by Intelligent Systems, the game developers best known for the Fire Emblem franchise. Codename S.T.E.A.M was Intelligent Systems' attempt at a new IP that departs greatly from the usual MO. Codename S.T.E.A.M is set in an alternate steampunk universe of the Victorian era told in Silver Age comic book style. The game actually begins appropriately in London with the opening of the Steamgate Bridge, which is a steampunk version of the real-world Tower Bridge in London. We are introduced to the main protagonist, Henry Fleming, the main character from the book The Red Badge of Courage. London is suddenly attacked by aliens. Fleming has to team up with John Henry, yes, the folklore hero John Henry, in order to escape London. They are rescued by a quite alive and well Abraham Lincoln aboard his airship, the Lady Liberty, and are recruited into Lincoln's strike force known as STEAM, which stands for Strike Team Eliminating the Alien Menace. As ridiculous as this premise of a game sounds, it actually works quite well, especially when you find out that the aliens are based upon the works of H.P. Lovecraft. A huge part of Codename S.T.E.A.M's charm is its obvious love of literature. All of the in-game playable characters are from a piece of literature of some sort, which reads like a list of literature's greatest hits. Peter Pan, The Wizard of Oz, Moby Dick, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer are the most well-known source materials used in the game, but it even uses forgotten gems like The Adventures of Espladane, Zorro's Black Whip, and The Statement of Randolph Carter. This fusion of comic books, alternate history steampunk, and classic literature give Codename S.T.E.A.M a feeling of extreme uniqueness in the vein of A League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. While this fusion is exactly up my alley, the background stories of the characters we play as are touched upon only lightly in the game. Even if you are a literary buff, you're going to leave the game knowing as much about the characters as when you left. While the amazing, unique setting, wacky antics of your team, and mostly great voice acting are quite enjoyable and keep you interested, the narrative is basically your typical invasion motif. Aliens come out of nowhere, you are humanity's last hope, you take the fight to them, and you win by the skin of your teeth. This wouldn't be so bad if IS had actually given us a story and characters to care about, but they seem more concerned about gameplay and having fun, which is okay since this is the main reason you keep playing Codename S.T.E.A.M. As opposed to a top-down view typical of IS's other turn-based strategy games, Codename S.T.E.A.M is played from a third-person shooter perspective. While still a turn-based strategy game, your movements and attack are determined by how much steam each character's boiler contains. This radical perspective and movement departure seems to have soured many of IS's longtime fans toward the game. While I will admit that this was my first experience with an IS game, I personally enjoyed the tactical aspect of the movement point system. Being able to hold over a certain amount of steam to your next turn added a whole other layer of tactical gameplay. And while some may cry this just pushes you into a trench warfare type slog of slowly moving forward, there are many levels where the enemies will continue to spawn until you make it to your goal. Also, instituting a cover system added another interesting wrinkle to your firefights. Speaking of goals, almost every level in Codename S.T.E.A.M is about getting your 4 squad members to a goal area. Basically, the game is about getting from point A to point B while a whole bunch of aliens try to kill you first. There is enough other non-point A to point B missions to keep things interesting, but the missions are generally crafted well enough to keep you on your toes for every single turn. While the tension may be high for most of the time you're playing, the same can't be said for when the enemy takes their turn. This is by far the weakest point of the game, as it takes forever for the enemy AI to make all of their moves, and it just gets worse and worse as the game starts throwing more and more enemies at you as you progress through the game. IS tried mending fences by releasing a patch that speeds up the process of the enemy's turn, and while it helps immensely, it still takes a while for you to get back to your turn. Another gripe is that there is little reason to use the 12-man roster the game gives you. A lot of characters are so weak or strategically impractical that you only play them in the one level you are forced to use them in. As for my playthrough, I ended up only using 6 characters regularly. This could be due to the fact that you could only use 4 squad members at a time for any particular mission, so each squad spot comes at a premium. But if anything, that should have pushed the developers to make each and every character indispensable. Instead, you are almost encouraged to use the same core that gets you through most situations, with you only having to make changes when the mission dictates it. I shouldn't have to feel that by changing one squad member, I've changed my squad's chance of success from 70% to 10%. I suppose I shouldn't feel too much of a loss since the character development in Codename S.T.E.A.M is so minimal that it never really warrants using the entire roster. The boss battles involving a mech that looks like Abraham Lincoln also tended to be anticlimactic and a bit lackluster. While Codename S.T.E.A.M reviewed decently, sales were an absolute disaster. Anyone who paid attention to this game saw its value plummet over the course of just a single year from its release. Codename S.T.E.A.M is an extremely clever game with an amazing setting, unique humor, and borrowed characters from some of fiction's most well-known works. But the game also has clear flaws that ultimately killed any chance of a sequel being made. While we may not see the crew of Lady Liberty ever fight again, if you're willing to put in the time and push through its flaws, Codename S.T.E.A.M is a punishing enough and fun strategy that will unfortunately be an overlooked diamond in the rough. This is the OutcastWriter, and this was my review of Codename S.T.E.A.M. I hope you folks try it and go and give it a check out. Go ahead, leave a comment if you have played this before. Hey, leave a comment if you haven't played it before. Like, subscribe. I appreciate all of it. Go ahead and give me your thoughts on how you thought about this review. This was just kind of a regular old run-of-the-mill review. There wasn't really a whole bunch of philosophical aspects to get into with Codename S.T.E.A.M, so kind of took a different approach with this, and it was pretty fun. So go ahead, let me know what you think. This is the OutcastWriter signing off, and just remember that what we create matters.